Hey guys, welcome to Mzansi and USA News. Things are interesting in our country. The Speaker, Madam Speaker, resigned from Parliament. As you all know, she was delivered to Littleton by her bodyguards to Littleton police station. She subsequently was released by a magistrate on a bail of 50,000 rands. But rather, it is quite interesting when you pay attention to, I've listened to almost all the analysis that was done in the media by different individuals, but I found this one the most fascinating. Listen to this.
I mean, imagine President Cyril Ramaphosa walking into a courtroom the way she did. Imagine Chief Justice, walking into a courtroom the way she did, with all the allegations that have been leveled against her. Of course, she is insisting that she is innocent, and as her lawyers just told the court, the case against her is weak, certainly from where she sits. But the symbolism, of these heroes of the liberation movement, who people conferred, by the way, the status that she has. The fact that she can, or the state can say, after a bail of 100,000, and then her lawyer says, bring it down to 50,000. But even that we may not have.
Because
she's a pensioner, and we may have to go and raise that money. The fact that she can be confident of walking out of that courtroom and raise a 50,000 rands bail, amount, underscores the privilege that she has, the pedestal that the people of South Africa put her in, and notwithstanding her own personal contribution, by the way, and which is just as important. But everything around what we saw this morning is just so wrong, and it doesn't inspire confidence, especially to future generations of South Africans who will be going to the polls in the next 8 or so weeks, and who are looking for leadership that will inspire them and that will not repeat what we've seen, certainly over the past 30 years.
Well, speaking of election.
Now that's Vuyamvoko, good people. It's not me saying that. He's saying everything we saw yesterday morning does not inspire confidence for those of us who will be going up to elections to vote, to make a choice as to who to vote for. Because it is pretty clear that this is yet another political statement by the ruling party. It is highly questionable whether this woman would be subject to this resignation or this court case. Everything that they are playing out in the public domain right now is part of their strategy. Listen to this.
I wonder whether this would have played out, what we just saw unfolding in the Pretoria Magistrates Courts. The former Speaker of the National Assembly appearing on multiple charges of fraud, of corruption and money laundering, pardon me. Would this have happened in the way that it has, even with her tendering her resignation some hours ago, if it wasn't an election year?
Most probably not. I think the fact that, we are 8 or so weeks to an election weighed in heavily on her organization, and most probably she was implored, if not forced, to actually take this, because there's no way the ANC, given its vulnerability, would have been able to, on the one hand, run an election without a lot of money, very limited resources, under so much pressure, given some of the predictions that for the very first time it may fall under 50%. And then you expect that organization that's so vulnerable, under so much pressure, to then have another fight on its hand, which is to try and defend its speaker and one of its most senior members. So I think decisions have had to be taken there to say, look, we have way too much on our plate, just do the right thing. For now, we'll look at the rest after the election.
Yeah, because outside...
That's telling. That's telling that even journalists from the mainstream media can see through the African National Congress. Do you hear what Vuyo is saying? If this was not an election year, that woman would not have resigned. Most probably she would not have resigned. Now, there are some people who are on crazy tablets who are going to come on this channel and make a comment to say we have no way of knowing that. We actually do have a way of knowing that based on the history of the ANC behavior in parliament. Look at Palapala. They use the tyranny of majority to stop Ramaphosa from accounting. Right now we are faced with elections. That's the only deterrent that has led to them finding alternative means. Hence, I'm saying I doubt very much that we'll get to the 29th of May and have elections in this country. They are cooking something. Make no mistake about it. They are up to no good. Remember, Ramaphosa is a globalist. You may call that a conspiracy theory. Let's wait. We'll wait patiently to get to the 29th of what we call May. There's a reason why Ramaphosa placed elections on that date to begin with. Okay? It's not an error. They are cooking something at the WHO. Ignorance is apparently a bliss in our country, but ignorance is not a virtue. But let's come back to local politics. There's no way, as Vuyo is saying, they would have allowed this. They are only allowing this because of how it plays out in the eyes of us in the public domain. Let's listen further. But it's a sobering analysis by Vuyo Mvoko. Listen to this.
Her tendering her resignation, there would have been that motion of no confidence vote in Parliament, and she would have had to face the Ethics Committee.
She would have had to face the Ethics Committee, which is probably the most important one, because if you look at the sheer numbers game that the ANC always plays, the probability of her actually surviving, that was actually greater than the Ethics Committee, looking at that issue that, of course, also involves.
Did you hear that? The probability of her surviving, looking at how the ANC plays the numbers game. Don't want you to miss that, because that's what they did with Palapala. That's the tyranny of majority. Let's continue.
The Secretary to Parliament, how he got to get that raise, which is a case that the DA was going to tie in with her. Not that Amos Masondo, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, is going to survive. That either. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
that's what, for the sake of this conversation, makes those issues right now. But there was a lot that was going to, the opposition, for all the obvious reasons. On the one hand, they have been on the ANC's case, going to court and getting them to do the right thing. But in an election year, it's as much about getting the governing party to do the right things as it is about electioneering and scoring every point that the opposition collectively can possibly score.
Well, not to labour the point, Vuyo, but the point is, if it would have gotten to Parliament, if there was no resignation tendered, the ANC would probably, without a doubt, have used its numbers to support Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula.
This time around, yes, but purely on the basis that it was going to an election. Because remember, we're talking about people who have a record of protecting wrongdoers or evildoers, even at the most sensitive and important of time. So easily they could have done. I think the election, more than anything else, weighed in heavily on this one.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, the biggest irony, perhaps.
Before he talks about the biggest irony, I want you guys to digest what Vuyo just said now. The ANC has a track record of defending people who practice lawlessness. The ANC has a track record of defending criminals. Now there are people who are either on crazy tablets or on the ANC Kool-Aid who are going to come here and defend the African National Congress and tell us, just like the EFF criminals, and tell us that we are going to vote for the EF for Julius no matter what. Okay? We need sober heads. We need sober minds. We need patriotism. Our country is going south. People need to wake up, good people. It is not sustainable to vote based on your skin color. It is not sustainable to base vote on credentials of the African National Congress. When a person is interviewed for a job, we look at their CV. But when a person has been on that job for a year, we review their performance. That's why we give them a performance agreement. We review their performance. If the performance is inconsistent That is why there is a period, a probation period. If their performance is inconsistent with their CV, we don't renew the probation. We discharge them of their responsibilities. We let them go. Why are we not doing that with the political organization that is in power, that is hell-bent on defending criminals? They are right now playing political games. You should not fall prey of their political games. Taking Nosifiwe Mapisa Nqakula, she obviously is under heavy counseling from the same organization. Observe now the politics that she's playing, internal politics, which I don't want to enter into, claiming that Majodina, that is now the chief whip of the ANC, is behind what is happening to her. I don't care about that. And I'm not saying Mapisa Nqakula is guilty, but in my mother tongue, where there's smoke, there's fire. And these allegations come from one man whom I have utmost respect for, General Bantu Bonke Olomisa. Okay? He is yet to lie when he says someone is corrupt. It was proven with Stella Sdao. Almost everything Olomisa has reported historically has been proven to be the case. Okay? So, however, I'm simply saying, yes, the woman has a presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Presumption of innocence is not the same as innocent until proven guilty. It's presumption of innocence. So we have to presume that she's innocent. It doesn't mean she's innocent. We have to presume that she is until she's proven guilty. We can't find her guilty in a court of public opinion. However, what are the chances that an ANC politician is innocent of corruption charges? Now, just ask yourself that question. The chances are 0 out of 100%, 0 out of 5, 0 out of 10, 0 out of 100. I can't see why she would be found not guilty at all. Why? There is a witness here that is the briber. And so there's a briber and the bribee. The person that was bribing or giving these bribes that were demanded from is the one that has turned state witness. And if that is the case, now you can see how solid the NPA case against her is. Nevertheless, guys, you tell me what you think about Vuyo Mvoko's analysis. I find it a breath of fresh air, comparatively speaking to most analysis that I found online. Of course, Sandile Swana takes the trophy for me. He's the most objective. And remember, he also is a former card-carrying member of the African National Congress, like myself, contrary to some individuals who think we hate the ANC. No, we woke up from what the ANC is doing. They're destroying our country. Objectivity is the ability to see your actions when you are going wayward. You take stock yourself and say, okay, why am I behaving this way? Why? Maybe I should stop drinking liquor because liquor causes me to do A, B, C, D. Okay? That's what objectivity is. Of course, I understand some people lack that objectivity. So they are going to accuse us of having been bribed, having been bought, self-loathing, all the nonsense that I get on my channel by people who think that they are these people were never even here, most of them during apartheid. They don't even have the scars to tell. For me, that's not important. It's not important for me to stand out publicly and give you the scars that I have from the apartheid government. That's not important. What is important is South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, as the Freedom Charter that we fought for says. Okay? And right now, the ANC has long moved off that course. It's not serving South Africans. It's serving a certain a certain group. And that group is not taking this country to any place that we could call Canaan or a promised land. They are taking this country to hell. You give me what your views are concerning what Vuyo and my opinion on Vuyo's analysis are. And then I'll see your views on the comments. And remember, if you're on crazy tablets, wait until you're off the medication. Do not comment down below. Have a lovely one. Ciao, ciao.